from the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador. This is From the South, and I am Sweeney Gray. UK Prime Minister Theresa May has been hit by 4 cabinet resignations over the deal she reached with the EU on Brexit. Brexit Secretary Dominic Raab said he cannot support the proposed terms. Works and Pension Secretary Esther McVie followed an hour later. The Junior Minister Shailesh Vara and the Parliamentary Secretary Anne-Marie Trevelyan have also stepped down. The backlash comes just after Cabinet had agreed to support the draft version of the agreement. And the EU has called for a special summit for the leaders to sign off the deal on November 25th. But with every minister who quits, the chances of May getting the deal through Parliament gets slimmer. Following the news, May has addressed the House of Commons and defended her Brexit deal.
Mr. Speaker, what we agreed yesterday was not the final deal. It is a draft treaty. It's not. It is a draft treaty that means that we will leave the EU in a smooth and orderly way on the 29th of March 2019, and which sets the framework for a future relationship that delivers in our national interest. It takes back control of our borders, laws and money. It protects jobs, security and the integrity of the United Kingdom, and it delivers in ways that many said could simply not be done.
And in an immediate response, the opposition leader Jeremy Corbyn has called on May to withdraw the Brexit deal, which he describes as half-baked.
The government, Mr. Speaker, is in chaos. Their deal risks leaving the country in an indefinite halfway house without a real say. The government simply cannot put to Parliament this half-baked deal that both the Brexit Secretary and his predecessor have rejected.
We go live to our correspondent in London, Pablo Navarrete, for the latest. Thanks for joining us, Pablo. The resignations are no doubt a major blow to Prime Minister May. So what does this mean for the Brexit deal moving forward?
I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing, but in terms of what this means for the Brexit deal, I think May's authority and her Brexit strategy is in tatters. We've had 2 cabinet minister resignations in one day. There's speculation that the International Development Secretary, Penny Marchant, will also resign, and also another Brexiteer. And there is intense pressure on all the Brexit-supporting members of the May cabinet to come out and effectively resign over what is seen by the Brexit wing of the Tory party as a betrayal of what Britain should have been, the terms that Britain should have been leaving the EU in. So she's in an extremely weak position, and there is intense speculation over her position as Prime Minister today.
There's also widespread speculation that Conservative MPs could now challenge Prime Minister May's leadership by perhaps submitting letters of no confidence. Is this a real concern?
Absolutely. There's the influential 1922 committee, which 48 letters have to be submitted to that committee to trigger a kind of motion of no confidence. It has been said that the letters are in already, but that many of those who have submitted have asked for it not to be triggered until they give their final say. So she is certainly on a knife edge in terms of her authority within the party. The issue is, as little credibility as she has and authority she has in the party, the Tory party do not have actual candidates that have appeal within the party that can unify both of these wings. So they're in a very, very difficult position, and that's why they're so desperate to avoid a general election that could come as a result of the resignations that are occurring today.
Which leads me to my next question. Is there a real opportunity in all of this for the Labour Party?
Yes, there is. Again, though, it's, the issue of Brexit has really put the cat amongst the pigeon in both parties. Amongst the Labour Party, as perhaps you don't know, but Jeremy Corbyn's authority has also been questioned heavily by a significant section of the MPs who do not agree with his kind of turned for the Labour Party and who are trying to manoeuvre rejecting a deal, but they are also, the analysts say, trying to avoid a general election because they in fact do not want Jeremy Corbyn to win a general election because they are not in favour of his leadership of the Labour Party. So it is not a simple way forward for the Labour Party either, but one would expect that if we have 3 cabinet resignations in one day, Theresa May's authority will be severely diminished and could open the way very probably for a general election.
Now, Pablo, going back to the Brexit conversation, what does a no deal mean for London? If Theresa does not get this deal passed, what does that mean for her?
I mean, if she does not manage to get this passed, it means personally for her that her position as head of the Conservative Party is over. Like she would have to move aside. What it means for Britain is extremely nebulous. I mean, the striking thing in Britain is how little the general public and even those who are kind of following events really understand about what's going on. People know that it's chaotic, but there is a general ignorance and complete, there is a sense of worry amongst the general population about what is to come. And when they see the people representing them politically in chaos as well, there is a general sense of uncertainty and preoccupation about what's coming ahead in the months that are ahead.
Thank you so much for that update, Pablo Navarrete. We've been speaking to our London correspondent. Now, Saudi Arabia has admitted that the journalist Jamal Khashoggi was dismembered in the Saudi consulate in Turkey. According to the Saudi public prosecutor, the journalist was drugged and then dismembered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. He said that 5 Saudi officials admitted to the crime and are now facing the death penalty. The murder of Jamal Khashoggi in early October has caused international outrage.
We have discovered the method of murder. There was a scuffle and a fight. He was then tied up and injected with a little dose of a numbing agent, which led to his death. May he rest in peace. We have uncovered the identity of the perpetrators and the decision maker, who are 5 people, who admitted to their crimes and their stories were much. The victim's body was dismembered by the perpetrators and was transported outside the consulate building.
The Senate in Argentina has approved the 2019 budget in the midst of protests. With 45 votes in favor, 24 against and 1 abstention, senators passed the budget proposed by the president, Mauricio Macri, after 13 hours of debate. This budget is aimed at maintaining the financial agreement the government signed with the International Monetary Fund. But many believe this budget would only further austerity measures, hurting those most vulnerable. And our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Sabrina Roth, has more.
Argentina's Senate has approved the 2019 budget with 45 votes in favor, 24 against, and 1 abstention. The $57 billion bailout negotiated from the International Monetary Fund includes austerity measures demanded by the fund. The government is hopeful the budget will pull the country out of its economic slump. As such, the GDP is projected to shrink another 0.5%. In fact, the IMF predicts it will fall even lower. The government first signed a $50 billion bailout agreement with the IMF in June, but the peso continued to weaken, and in September, the Macri administration announced spending cuts and then returned to the negotiation table with the IMF. This upped the bailout amount by just over $7 billion. Meanwhile, Senator Anabel Sagasti has said that she feels the government has only increased the country's debt, and more than it ever has in 4 decades. The law will also facilitate a 13% cut in public spending, a 6% reduction in social services, 23% in education, 8% in public health, and 48% in public housing.
The Mapuche community member Camilo Catrayanca was killed by police forces during a raid in the south of Chile. Catrayanca was shot in the head twice by special forces deployed to the area. Social organizations and several lawmakers are blaming the state for his murder and are demanding an investigation. Meanwhile, hundreds of people protested in Chile's capital, Santiago, to condemn the violence against the Mapuche people. And our correspondent, Paula Dragnich, is in Santiago with more.
Mapuche people and social organizations are protesting outside the presidential palace against the murder of Mapuche leader Camilo Catrillanca. He was just 24 years old. Meanwhile, police continue the raids on the southern Mapuche community of Temuicuicui. Eyewitnesses allege that there is another person, a minor, who was seriously injured. This, however, has not yet been confirmed. We'll keep you informed.
And earlier, our correspondent spoke to Jaime Wenche-Yan, a member of the Temuicuicui community. Let's listen in.
Camilo was killed by members of the Jungle Command around 4:35 in the afternoon. He was building his house, and when the police saw members of the Mapuche community, they started shooting, and one of the shots hit Camilo.
And where is Camilo's body now? Do police have it? Do you have any details?
The body is still at the local hospital. His family is there, and many brothers are going to support his wife, his father, mother, and sister.
Now, social organizations have condemned Camilo's murder and are asking for justice to be served. They're also urging the government to put an end to the operation carried out by Jungle Command in Mapuche territories in the south of the country. Several times they have criticized Jungle Command for its heavy repression of the Mapuche community. Time now for a short break. More news in a minute.
Telesur brings you special interviews with social and political personalities. Monday, from Washington. Tuesday, from Mexico. Wednesday, from Caracas. Thursday, from Quito. Friday, from Havana. Analysis about our continent's reality. Weekdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. The judiciary in Peru is investigating former President Alberto Fujimori for crimes against humanity, this time for the forced mass sterilizations that took place during his term. The prosecutor's office is also investigating 4 of his former ministers.
It has been 22 years since Maria Elena was sterilized without her consent after giving birth in a hospital in Lima. She only found out about it years later when she was trying to get pregnant again. Her sterilization was not without consequences.
My body is no longer mine. I specialized in geriatric care and now I can no longer take care of my patients. I can't even pick up my granddaughter. My body is not the same and psychologically I always cry. I feel frustrated.
Maria Elena and over 2,000 other women who were mutilated during the Fujimori administration await justice. Just this week, after 18 years of investigation, the prosecutor's office has implicated Alberto Fujimori and his former health ministers, as well as other officials, as intellectual authors of this crime against humanity.
The trial should be now, and they should be put in prison. There should be justice and reparation for the victims. All the ministries should help the victims.
According to human rights organizations, there is sufficient evidence to speed up the trial against the accused, who between the years 1992 and 2000 would have forcibly sterilized over 200,000 women and men as part of their state policy.
They wanted to fight poverty by taking the right to decide how many children women can have. There are a lot of racist and sexist people that until today think that a poor indigenous campesino Quechua-speaking woman should not have the right to decide how many children they can have. so they try to justify these state policies.
In addition to massacres and corruption, for which Fujimori has already been sentenced to 25 years in prison, this new criminal investigation is pending along with another one for the massacres of campesinos in the community of Pativilca.
Hundreds of indigenous people have arrived to Ecuador's capital, Quito, to urge the National Assembly to protect their water resources. They have marched for 11 days from the Amazonian city of Napo to deliver a bill that will protect the region by banning mining. Indigenous people are also calling for bilingual education, the end of the criminalization of their leaders, and agrarian reform. And the president of El Salvador, Salvador Sánchez-Serén, has launched a new national policy for indigenous people. It's a plan that will help a sector of the society that has historically been excluded.
With an ancestral ceremony, the Nahuatl, Pipil, Lenca, and Cacahuira indigenous peoples celebrate the announcement of a public policy that will work to enforce their economic, social, and cultural rights.
This is the starting point to build, little by little, a solid pyramid, so to speak, for our rights.
In a special event at the presidential palace, President Salvador Sánchez-Serén gave the document to indigenous representatives. This happened after talks with different organizations of indigenous people and state institutions. The policy has strategies to improve social, cultural, economic, and environmental issues.
This is one of the most important legal actions in the history of El Salvador because it consolidates the end of centuries of exclusion for this noble and brave sector of our country. I express my respect to all indigenous communities and organizations and of their success, a product of their effort and tenacity.
Since June 2014, indigenous people in the country have been officially recognized, and now they are launching programs to revive their language, traditions, and ancestral cultures. The identity of Native people and their link to Mother Earth has influenced strategies for sustainability in the use of natural resources.
I will demand that everyone who was there to receive this document, and to the current and coming governments, to fulfill this policy, to not to keep this document in a drawer, because it has taken a lot of sacrifice to get to this point. We've gone hungry for too long.
El Salvador is a multi-ethnic state, and now it has made a compromise to respect and to strengthen cultural diversity and people's rights. For this reason, the intersectional group of indigenous peoples has been created. It will monitor the fulfillment of this national policy.
Bolivian President Evo Morales has praised the work of the Army in the defense of the people and their sovereignty. During the 208th anniversary of the Army, Morales spoke about the importance of the Army's commitment to the country. He says it has become an essential tool in the fight against smuggling.
Nowadays, the armed forces have an important honor: the effective fight against smuggling. This is a problem that we face. Bolivia is the first economic growing in South America and second in the whole continent. That raises the price of all Bolivians. And we are convinced that working with the people and institutions, together we can improve the economic and social field of our dear Bolivia.
Ghana's President David Granger has cancer. He was in Cuba for medical tests, and that's where his diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma was confirmed. President Granger will begin chemotherapy treatment on Thursday. He will also have to remain indefinitely in Cuba because of his treatment. However, it has been reported that his prognosis is good and that he is expected to make a full recovery. Brazil has launched the first phase of the country's particle accelerator. CIRUS, as it's called, will be used to make advances in medicine, nutrition, archaeology, electronics, energy, and conservation. At approximately the same size as the Maracanã Stadium, it will also help in research aimed at combating degenerative diseases such as Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. We'll take another break now. More news after this.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo corro.
To keep myself healthy, I study.
Για να διατηρηθώ υγιής, τρέφομαι σωστά.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo bailo.
Para mantenerme saludable, yo purifico mi espíritu a través del cuerpo. ¿Y tú?
Get Your Body. Tuesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. A group of victims of the California wildfires have filed a lawsuit against PG&E Corporation alleging negligence and health and safety code violations by the utility company. The lawsuit against California's largest public utility was filed in the San Francisco County Superior Court. They allege the corporation failed to properly maintain, repair, and replace its equipment, and that is inexcusable behavior which contributed to the cause of the campfire. This is California's deadliest fire on record, with at least 59 people dead so far.
I just have a couple questions. I just want to know why that evacuation was such a failure, number one. And number two, who's responsible? When our country gets attacked, we don't wait a couple of days to find out what's going on. Once we know what's going on, we go back and we respond to the people that, caused this. And that's what I'm doing. I'm the voice of the people at the shelter. I'm the voice for the people that, don't have renter's insurance. It's not a very rich community by any means, but what we have, we take pride in. It's gone.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and his South Korean counterpart Moon Jae-in have discussed the peace process on the Korean peninsula. At the ASEAN summit, both leaders analyzed crucial issues such as denuclearization in the peninsula and the development of binational cooperation. Moon Jae-in expressed his hope that further progress will be made during the upcoming meeting between the North Korean and U.S. leaders. 857 people have died in the Democratic Republic of Congo in the latest cholera outbreak to hit the country. According to the World Health Organization, more than 25,000 cases have been reported so far. The outbreak affected 21 out of the 26 provinces in the country. Last year, the country recorded 55,000 cases, resulting in 1,190 fatalities. The president of Guinea-Bissau, José Maria Vaz, is holding consultations with various political forces on the delay of parliamentary elections. The elections were scheduled for November 18, but problems with the electoral census will probably force a delay. The polls were intended to resolve the political crisis that the country is facing since the dismissal of the Prime Minister, Domingos Simoes Pereira, in August of 2015.
President José María Vaz wants to listen to all political parties and their opinions to allow him to better reflect the current situation in Guinea-Bissau.
And Tunisia's new government has been sworn in. President Beji Kad Essebsi has presided over the swearing-in ceremony of Prime Minister Youssef Kad at the presidential palace in Carthage. Boosting the country's stagnant economy will be one of the main issues for the new cabinet. The 77th Shopping Festival Made in Syria has started in Damascus. The event hopes to show the strength of Syrian industries in spite of economic sanctions and terrorist attacks.
This festival, in which nearly 200 companies are taking part, showcases products made entirely in Syria. This is an attempt to reboost Syria's economy and safeguard the needs of citizens.
Through festivals like these, we create commerce centers that establish direct contact between producers and consumers. This reduces process and can lead to sales of up to 50%.
The participation of national companies in this festival serves as a clear message to foreign interests, a message that says that, despite the war and sanctions, the Syrian industry will not stop and will soon recover its grandeur.
Syrian soldiers who were wounded in the battlefield take part in the festival with their own creations. Their participation is a first for this event.
We want our war veterans to regain their normal way of life. In the same way they served their duty in the battlefield, we are now helping them start their own businesses so they may better reintegrate in society.
Syrians throughout history have been known for being resistant, for being hardworking and creative. The blockades and terrorist attacks will not stop our lives, and they will not dampen our spirits.
This festival will travel to Amman, the capital of Jordan, to promote Syrian-made products.
We've come to the end of this news brief. For these and many other stories, you can find them on our website at talisiaenglish.net. And join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Talisia English, I'm Sony Gray. Thank you for watching.